wisdom,
prudentia,
justice,
justitia,
temperance,
temperantia,
courage.
fortitudo.
Applying ancient philosophy to modern life, this is the Sunday Stoic.
Howdy, welcome to the Sunday Stoic Podcast. This is Steve, and this week we're getting into the TARDIS, the Wayback Machine, the DeLorean, going back in time to the trial of Socrates. So this is going on about 65 to 70 years or so before the birth of Zeno, the founder of Stoicism. But Socrates is sort of the founding father of the type of philosophy that Stoicism arose from. So we are going to look a little bit at this by reading from the Apology written by Plato. So Plato's Apology, which is about the trial where the Athenians convicted Socrates and sentenced him to death. We're not going to do the whole thing today. In fact, I've paraphrased the trial, and we're going to do part one of the defense of Socrates today, and we'll do further episodes with more of that trial in the future. But for this week, let's hear part one of the trial of Socrates. Men of Athens, I do not know how much you were affected by the speech of my accusers. I myself found it quite persuasive. I could almost convict myself. But hardly anything they said was true. They told many lies, but one in particular stood out to me: that you should be careful not to be deceived by an accomplished speaker like me. As you can tell, I am not a good speaker. Unless, of course, you define a great speaker only as someone who speaks the truth. I have no polished style like my accusers do, but unlike them, I will speak the truth. It will be unpolished and somewhat random as things come into my mind, but by Zeus, it will be the truth. I just ask that you don't pay attention to the way I speak. I'm not used to speaking in the court. My experience has been in the marketplace. This is my first time in a courtroom in my 70-plus years of life, and I fear that my unrefined way of speaking might come as a shock to you. But pay attention not to how I speak, but to the truth of what I say. Gentlemen, I must defend myself against the accusations that have been made against me in the past, and then against the more recent accusations. Many have accused me in the past, but none of their accusations are true. These earlier accusations were murmured through the city, and many of you would have heard them in your childhood, which would have persuaded you against me. They falsely claim that Socrates is wise and a student of all things in the sky and below the earth, and that he makes the worst argument seem like the better argument. These accusers are very dangerous. Their hearers believe that those who study these things don't even believe in the gods. These accusers are many and would have spoken to you at a very impressionable age. Worst of all, we can't even know who these accusers were unless they happen to be a writer of comedies. They maliciously and slanderously persuaded you. They persuaded themselves, and they persuaded others, and yet we can't bring them all into the courtroom. It's like trying to fight a shadow. You could cross-examine them all you like, but they will not answer. Men of Athens, I must defend myself and try to uproot from your minds the slander that has resided there for so long. This will be difficult, but let the matter proceed as the god may wish. I must obey the law and make my defense. Let's start at the beginning. What charges did Meletus bring against me? They go something like this. Socrates is guilty in that he's constantly studying the ways of the sky and below the earth. He makes the worse argument the stronger, and he teaches the same to others. I call upon you to act as witnesses for me. Many of you have heard me conversing in the past, and none of you have heard me conversing on subjects such as these to any extent. Nothing that my accusers bring against me is true. Unlike the sophists, I do not charge to teach, despite what have you been told by my accusers, and you may ask, Why then are you being accused, Socrates? What really have you done? My reputation is due to a certain kind of wisdom. What kind of wisdom? Human wisdom. Perhaps I really do possess this, and my accusers possess superior wisdom. I don't know. But I will tell you a story, gentlemen. But do not become agitated. It's a story that was told to me by a trustworthy source. Everybody knows Chaerephon. He was a lifelong friend of mine, and once he asked the oracle of Delphi if any man was wiser than I. The oracle said that no man was wiser. Now Chaerephon is dead, but his brother will testify to you about this. When I heard of this, I asked myself, what in the world does the god mean? I know for a fact that I am not wise. I started to look at those who had a reputation of having wisdom, so that I might refute what the oracle had said. I soon realized that these men thought themselves wise, but they in fact were not. And when I tried to show them this, they came to dislike me. I may be wiser than them, but only in the fact that they claim to be wise and I claim to know nothing. I do not claim to know what I do not know. After talking to the politicians, the poets, and the craftsmen, I have arrived at a conclusion. The god speaking through the oracle must have meant that human wisdom is worth little or nothing, and that he is using my name as an example, saying, "This man among you is the wisest, who, like Socrates, understands that wisdom is worthless." So now I devote my life to seeking out people who seem to be wise and investigating them. I do the work of the gods by showing them that they are in fact not wise. And of course, now the craftsmen, the politicians, and the poets all bring charges against me.
Socrates has been accused of corrupting the youth and of not believing in the gods of the city. And so now he's standing in front of 501 jurors who are going to decide his fate. And he has a chance to defend himself. And he goes on to say that it's been said that he's a wise man, and the oracle of Delphi said no one was wiser than Socrates, and Socrates does not think of himself as wise, so he's digging into that. You know, that's what he's been doing the last several years, is trying to figure out what the oracle meant, because he doesn't think it's literally true. And so he goes up to the wise, the people who are said to be wise, and he starts to question them. And he uses what we now call the Socratic Method, a series of questions to try to uncover the truth. And as he does this, he annoys these people. So soon, the craftsmen, the poets, the politicians, etc., are not a fan of Socrates because he's often exposed them as being less wise than they claim to be. Now, at the same time, Socrates has come to understand that he himself is wise, but kind of like a loophole of wisdom here. He's not wise in that he knows more than the people he's talking to. In fact, he says, I am just as ignorant as everybody else. However, I know that I'm unwise, and I admit that I'm not wise. Basically, he knows when to say, I don't know. And that in itself is a kind of wisdom. And he's not saying that wisdom is unattainable or that it's not worthy of pursuit. He's just saying he doesn't have it. And he's using his questioning to try to find it. It's this honesty of Socrates, and as we'll see when we go through other parts of the trial later, his bravery in the face of the death sentence and kind of his cockiness in the face of his accusers that kind of hold him up and make the Stoics and other schools of thought from this era really hold Socrates up as an example of a great human being and someone to model our own lives after. And we'll follow up with that in future episodes. Thanks for joining me this week. Have a Stoic week and Carpe Diem.
Thank you for listening to the Sunday Stoic. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review the Sunday Stoic on iTunes. Become a member of the Sunday Stoic team, earn rewards, and be an integral part of the show by becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/SundayStoic. Contact the show by emailing sundaystoic@gmail.com or by leaving a voicemail at 501-503-3132. To find out more, visit www.sundaystoicpodcast.com. And as Steve always says, Carpe Diem.